good evening. It's 6:30. I will call to order the Wednesday, December 18, 2024 Cedarburg School Board meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Cedarburg School Board and is a public meeting. Prior notices have been placed in the district, and additional copies were forwarded to the city and the town of Cedarburg, as well as the News Graphic and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Please stand and join us as we pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this evening we also have the added pleasure and honor to have our combined elementary school choirs sing the national anthem.
Thank you. That was absolutely fantastic.
And thanks to all the parents who brought their kids here. Thank you very much for that.
And I should add, if that was your purpose for being here, don't feel bad about leaving early. Looks like we're losing everybody. All right, so I'll move to item 2 on our agenda, which is recognitions. Laura.
The state of Wisconsin has declared the following proclamation. December 9th through the 15th is Computer Science Education Week. And as always, all proclamations are always available on the board district's webpage. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the consent agenda. Dr. Clark.
All right, with regards to the consent agenda, board members, I ask that you approve the minutes from the regular board meeting on November 20th, 2024. The budget and finance report, which includes the summary of accounts, check register, check detail, and credit card transaction reports, and the personnel report. Mr. DeRosa, Director of Human Resources, is here to provide an overview of the personnel report.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Excuse me. As you can see on the report, nothing with our professional employees over this past month. With the classified and support staff, you can see that we have 4 less in the district, but definitely give our principals some credit for hiring at the stage that they're at right now and being able to fill those open positions with some of our paraprofessionals.
good. I would take a motion on the consent agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Item number 4 is the superintendent's report. Again, Dr. Clark.
All right, before we get too much in here, I would like to make a statement. As you know, as many of you know, CHS student Noah Sabarin passed away in a tragic car accident on Monday, November 25th. I'd like to take a moment to remember Noah and to keep his family and friends in our thoughts. Thank you. This evening, it is our pleasure to hear from our elementary music department. Mr. Brandon Ruff, Thorson Elementary School principal, will introduce the elementary music team as they share some of the learning experiences our students enjoy. You can just mention who the teachers are.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So tonight we have our teacher from Thorson, Miss Wilson, our teacher from Parkview, who Mr. Lunk, right? Yeah. Okay, good. And then Mr. Schmidt, who is at Westlawn, and he also comes to Parkview and Thorson to help out with some of our grades that have larger sections that we need an extra music amp teacher. So they do incredible things. They're going to talk all about it, and we're super excited that we're able to see all the amazing things that they do with our kids at school. So you guys can take over. Thank you.
We're really good at directing, so we'll just.
Okay, sounds good. I can take my cue. Yep.
All right, where we teach. I teach at Parkview along with Mr. Schmidt.
Thorson.
And then I am at all three, so I'm at Parkview, I'm at Thorson, and mainly at Westlawn.
What we do in the general music classroom, we have 4 standards: perform, describe, create, and connect. And then within those standards, we are teaching the different elements of music: beat, the steady pulse that we feel while music being performed; dynamics, the volume of the music, how loud or quiet it is; form, how is it constructed, put together, the patterns in the music; pitch, how high or low the sounds are; rhythm, the long and short sounds and silences in music; texture, the layers of sound in music; tone color, the special sound of each instrument or voice; and harmony, 2 or more sounds happening at the same time. And while all of that is being taught, we're providing students with multiple experiences in our lessons. They are singing, speaking, playing, moving, creating, listening, reading music, and writing music as well. And I took some of these pics in my music classroom at Parkview. These are some of our 5th grade musicians. This is just one typical lesson. You see students playing instruments. They were doing a listening activity to a Bach piece called Gavotte, and then they had to take some of the rhythms in that piece and create a movement composition. So you see some of them doing some movements and performing those for their classmates as well. And now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Wilson.
All right. So some of these pictures are from 3rd grade. We kind of went every other grade because otherwise there would be a lot. So these are some of the Thorson 3rd graders. You can see some instrument playing. The bottom left picture is a very, very new song that's going to be in the concert. They're learning a dance to a song called Ame Ame from Japan. And you can see some steady beat, which we do at all 3 schools. We start, yes, Charlotte, show us what we do. Oh, and maybe we can have our board members. Could you copy Charlotte? Ready?
That's how we show respect to the leader.
Yes, she'll show you. And she'll switch it up, and the kids each take turns being the leader and showing that steady beat, which is, the backbone to music.
And I had the privilege of talking about our younger side of the students with our 1st graders. In the top left, that's kind of a picture of my students from Thorson, and on the bottom left is from Thorson, and then on the right side, our students from Westlawn. I wanted to showcase the fact that I'm teaching students from all over the district, and especially in 1st grade, I teach at Thorson as well as Westlawn. We are in the midst of preparing for our first grade concert, which takes place on January 30th at Thorson. It's such a fun experience to combine the Thorson and West Lawn first graders to put on an awesome concert. And you can see a lot of them preparing for that. My students at West Lawn are learning how to stand on the risers, the correct way the correct posture when singing, and they're also doing Steady Beat 2 up in the top left corner. They're just kind of getting done with doing the Steady Beat at that specific time when I took that picture. But then in the top right, with the students sitting around in a circle, they are practicing our student learning objective. This year we are focusing on teaching Steady Beat to first graders and really reinforcing that, testing their ability to, as you can see, one student has a drum. How well can they keep a steady beat? Is it steady throughout? Does it change? Do they have no idea how to keep a steady beat? We're all just testing and seeing how we can help them grow throughout the year and make sure that they really have that fundamental skill of keeping a steady beat.
The extensions, this is the stuff we like to talk about. This year we had the pleasure of taking our fifth graders downtown Milwaukee to see a concert by the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. We did combine that with art, so some of us went to the art museum, you went to the Linden Sculpture Gardens, so a really great opportunity for them. And I believe the fifth grade are also coming to the MSO concert tomorrow here. So we prep them with concert etiquettes and the instruments of the orchestra, and they are ready. Our choirs, which you got to see at Thorson, our choir is fourth grade. Choir kids, raise your hands. Oh yeah, thanks for staying, by the way. That is so nice. And then at West Lawn and Parkview, the choir is made up of fifth grade, and that's just simply because it worked with our schedules, and that's what we do. Parkview also has a drumming club, right? And you can see the fourth grade drumming club, so you can see a picture of that. The CHS bands and choirs, they did a tour just recently last week, so we got to witness that and be audience members for that. And then Christmas Carol, ooh, Mr. Schmidt and I should talk about that. Mr. Schmidt and I actually were in Christmas Carol in Menominee Falls with the Falls Patio Players, and they have school performances, so we arranged for the fourth grade, the entire fourth grade in the whole district, to come see a musical performance. And we were so happy to have them in the audience. But not only that, we were able to bring in one of the other cast members who is a longtime member of Patio Players, and he did a whole presentation for the kids. This year he played the Ghost of Marley, and he did some readings as that for the children. So we are always looking for these fun extra opportunities.
A Cedarburg resident,
yes.
may I add.
Yes. He lives across the street from Parkview.
That's our neighbor.
How and where do we perform? Earlier on November 16th, we took all three of our choirs to the Milwaukee Admirals hockey game. In previous years, we've kind of done like one school performs, we kind of performed separately, finding our own times. But this year, we kind of jumped right ahead and decided to combine again because it's so awesome to have the kids from all over the district singing together and being able to see one another and just create those connections and those bonds through these awesome events. And also, when we do these awesome Admirals games, sometimes one of the teachers gets selected to be a human hockey puck. And so then all of their students get to witness that all go down, right? We also perform at Cedarburg High School events. We've performed the national anthem at basketball games before. I know last year my Dolphin Chorus did at least 2 games, and this year we plan to do the same thing, just to kind of get ourselves out there, out in the community, performing for everybody. Our variety shows, that's, I know like Parkview has their variety show where Dolphin Chorus, not Dolphin Chorus, Bullpup Chorus at Parkview prepares a few pieces that they perform for their variety shows. And then Lasada and Lasada Heights Senior Living Center, typically sometimes our choirs will go there and perform carols or holiday music or any other types of things, just performing for those folks who might not get out that often, just to see the youth coming in there singing, giving their all for those people that might not get out as much. And then as well as our grade level performances that are on site at our schools. I know Cassie has, Mrs. Wilson at Thorson has a separate concert that is all Jaguar chorus. I tend to have my Dolphin chorus perform at our 5th grade fine arts night at the end of May. And Mr. Lung, what do you typically do for your...
We do the variety show.
And then that variety show and all that good stuff. Yeah, so we're performing as much as we can, giving those kids that experience, creating that love. That way when they go on into middle school and high school, they can still pursue those experiences of singing and performing in the community.
All right, music alignment. This is something that we're really proud of. Over the past few years, we've done an incredible amount of work in this area. In the past, each school kind of did their own thing, and now we are very aligned, as you'll see. We've created essential learning targets where that we have posted in our classrooms. So we've created district-wide posters, and these are what students are graded on. Kids can see them. We review them throughout our lessons, and this is what we actually give to families. You know, when they ask, you know, what should my child work on? What are their grades going to be based on? This is what we track. So we can't obviously report out on everything, and so we've chosen these areas as the essential learning targets. A lot of our lesson activities are exactly the same at all 3 sites. Of course, the elements and experiences that I went over before are identical. We have a ton of common assessments that we all agree upon, that we feel are necessary to show those essential learning targets. Our concerts are now completely aligned, not just the dates, but the repertoire. We all do the exact same pieces, all 3 sites. 2nd grade's musical is the same, Go Fish this year, and 4th grade, Yeehaw, is going to be we're well in the swing of it. And just a side note about that, last year I remember I had a student that transferred from Thorson to Parkview, and it was about a week before the concert, and the family was like, oh, I'm so sad that my child can't be in the concert. I said, well, actually, they can. We've learned the exact same songs at Parkview, and our movements are even all the same, so they don't have to learn that either. So they were able to just fill right in, just different students, but they were so appreciative that and impressed at how seamlessly and how well we work as a team. Vertical alignment, we've done an incredible amount of work with that. In the past, we've given pages and pages and pages to the middle school teachers. Here are all the Parkview songs, you know, Westland songs, you know, and now we can just literally give them, here's one document of all the concert pieces, but also, so, you know, vertical alignment, consistent language we talked about. We do a counting system now for rhythms instead of tas and TTs, and the middle school teachers have just been giving us positive raves about that, how they're just seeing an incredible improvement with transitioning from elementary to middle school. And just consistent language. Oftentimes in music, there's more than one word for the same thing, so we just want to make sure district-wide that we're consistent with that language and those vocabulary terms. And all of our field trips are all the same. And there you go. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you, and this was really informative. I feel like a lot of time we talk about reading and reading, math, and all that, but this is a significant portion of a child's educational experience as well. And your energy is, I can tell, I'm sure the kids love it. And just for me, you know, Cedarburg graduation for high school, one of the touching parts are when the senior choir, not the high school choir, gets up there and sings, and it all starts at your level. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. The alignment looks really, yeah, thank you. Now, the curricular alignment looks fantastic, but not just that, the fact that you're getting the students out of the classroom and not only watching seeing like, okay, let's go to the symphony, or let's go to a play, and we can actually watch our instructors, our teachers, doing what they're teaching, and then participate, performing themselves. I think that's just fantastic. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hold on,
All right,
sorry.
thank you.
I was waiting to see if anyone else had anything. I'm a choir kid, so I want to say thank you to the fifth grade, no, not fifth grade, it was multiple grades, right? Fourth and fifth, yep. Thank you guys for coming out. You sang a song with great diction. I noticed everybody with their, at the end. And I want to just say, choir kids, it never leaves you. It's awesome. So I'll stop there. I have many more thoughts, but I appreciate you guys very much.
Yes, please
Very
come
much.
to some of our shows.
Concerts are no longer than 30 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
We're still on you, Dr.
We're still on me, yep. Next up is Ms. Allie Rudich, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and she'll be presenting an overview of our spring assessment data.
Good evening. Happy end of December to everybody. Last month, we shared an overview of our recently released school report cards. So tonight, we're going to also add a little bit more to that information and talk about some other assessments that were conducted and how we did last school year. So as just a reminder, our assessment plan includes the following district and state assessments. Our district assessments of iReady at our elementary and middle school level that they complete 3 times out of the year. Our 9th and 10th graders complete the pre-ACT, and our juniors complete the ACT. For state assessments, we've talked a lot about our forward exam, which is where a good amount of our school report card comes from. Those are completed in grades 3, 4, and 5, and then a full battery in grades 4, 8, and 10. We also have the pre-ACT that is part of the spring assessment for state, and the ACT in the spring for our juniors. So just a reminder of our state assessments. We also do have alternative assessments for our students that have identified needs for that. So as we've talked a little bit about forward, I just wanted to remind you that some of those cut levels wordings have changed again for this year. That also applies to the ACT. So the categories of those levels are changing just as much as the forward did. So advanced does not have any change. Proficient has gone to meeting, basic has gone to approaching, and below basic has gone to developing, just like we talked about when we were talking about forward for our state report cards. The graphs that you have up here are our overall proficiency from last school year. The one on the left is the amount of students that are meeting and advanced in ELA. The graph on the right are the students that are meeting and advanced in math. And then just note the color coding below. Blue is for forward, and those grades are 3 through 8. The pre-ACT is red, and the ACT is yellow. So this is just 1 year last spring of where we were at for those proficiency levels of meeting and advanced.
And Allie, the 20, if you could go back, the 2023 to 2024, just so I have it correct, is using the updated cut scores.
Correct.
For the forward exam, okay. And I don't think, so if anybody wasn't here at the last meeting, I had similar things to add about what the DPI, they've really made drastic changes in these cut scores that I feel like is important to highlight yet again. So when we say cut scores, it's like the parameters for which scores fall into which category. So not only did they rename the categories to kind of be a little bit gentler, I would say, instead of below basic, it's like meeting, approaching. that they change those cut scores, and they're incredibly drastic, and it makes it difficult for parents to compare numbers from year to year. So just for example, in 2023, 39% of Wisconsin students, this is statewide, were proficient in reading with the former cut scores. 2024, 53%. So it went from 39 to 53%. It's highly unlikely that there was such a radical improvement in literacy that to make that leap. Similarly in math, 2023, 41% of Wisconsin students were proficient in math. 2024, it went from 41 to 53% to be meeting. So like a 12% jump is just not accurate. The meetings that DPI did to come up with these new cut scores weren't open to the public. They were behind closed doors. It just confuses the public, in my opinion, and it's really impossible to compare year to year. So just letting people know it's difficult to compare.
Yeah, the
last
bottom
year,
line
next
is
year.
the bar was lowered.
Yep.
And we use it as a tool. So it's one of many tools that we use in our assessments. So we're aware of that. We're cognizant of it. We're not, showing a comparison of to last year where we're up 20% or something like that because the bar's lower. That's your point, right?
That was it.
Yeah.
Yep. Just because it's not well known how drastic the changes are. So thank you.
All right, so now we're going to get into a lot of information on slides. The slide that you have in front of you is just that historical state assessment data. You're going to see the different tests along the bottom and the trends from year to year. So yes, these are the proficient and advanced as outlined previously and this past current year, but just to give you a little bit of basis and comparison across the years. Your color coding for the different years is up on the top right corner, but the years go from left to right for each of those different categories.
So according to the chart, even before the change in terms that was made for 23-24, there have historically been huge jumps.
Yes.
Up and down both ways. So it's not an isolated thing for this newest round in 23-24.
Correct.
And DPI has also edited cut scores in the past as well. I don't know what exact years in the past, but that's happened.
Have they ever updated prior year's data to kind of make it more consistent to compare? Because that would be helpful.
So in the next two slides, you're going to see that.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
prepare to advance.
Thank you for the segue.
Okay.
So, in order to make sure that we are maintaining that high rigor and making sure that we are closely monitoring and to have a basis of comparison for our students who generally perform really well, we have been looking at how we can best find benchmarks to monitor our students against. And so there has been some research that says that students that are at or above the 66th percentile in ELA and the 70th percentile in math have a better chance of doing well post-secondary. So this is a comparison for ELA. You're going to see a couple of different things on that slide. But this is the percent of students at or above the 66th percentile for forward. You will also notice that you can track the colors diagonally, and that is cohorts of kids. So if you can see from third grade, the same group in fourth grade, which has a star in it because that was when we were off for COVID, but then how they performed in fifth grade, how they performed in sixth grade, how they performed in seventh grade, and so on. So that gives you just a little bit of a couple different ways to look at it, not just grade level to grade level, but actual cohorts of students. So again, this is ELA, and this is students that are at or above the 66th percentile.
This is a really good slide. I appreciate you putting this together.
I would second that.
So when you say 66th percentile, where does that come from? 66th percentile of what? From where?
Their proficiency percentile, what they scored.
So it means over time. So they're the students that perform better than 66% of all of their students that take this assessment.
Okay.
And that's
it's
not
hard.
recalculated every year. They do it every couple of years, but that's what that where it's
Okay,
based off
thank
of.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the important thing is regardless of where those cut scores are for the state, you can still compare percentile to percentile. So that is something that we do with our different buildings, but we're also trying to figure out what's going to be that best rigor for making sure that our students are performing as best as they can for our district. So similarly, this is math, and again, that percentile of the study that we were talking about for the 66th percentile in reading is the 70th percentile in math. So you're going to notice where students are at each of those different grade levels on forward on the top over the years, and then on the bottom you'll be able to track them by their different cohorts. So in addition to watching and tracking those percentiles from student to student, watching how we are doing at some of these percentile bands also gives us really good information as similar to what we would expect for the rigor for our students.
If you want to go back to that just for a second, I think one of the important things to recognize about that 66th percentile and 70th percentile is what the research indicated was that if a student met that benchmark, they would successfully pass the first course in college of that. And so again, just looking at our 8th grade from last year, again, they still got a high school to go through, but right now we're at least 72% of our kids being successful in college math. Thank you.
Yes, and there's a strong alignment for ACT performance with those 2 percentiles also. So this is our ACT, speaking of ACT. This is the percent of students meeting those college readiness benchmarks. So you're gonna notice 4 tests up on the screen, as well as students that are meeting all 4 of those college readiness benchmarks. And so there's a little note at the bottom, but the college ACT readiness benchmarks really are there to help predict how students will perform in their first year of college in success of that particular ACT score. So the higher the ACT score, the likelihood of them being able to complete their first class in college improves. So there is a lot of study and data that goes into collecting that information of how students are doing, which ends up giving us our ACT college readiness benchmarks. Our overall ACT composite score by year is listed here. And just remember the highest possible score for ACT is a 36.
Do you recall where this falls, like statewide, for this year?
This is a little bit higher than a good
definitely.
amount of our.
Casey, do you remember what the average?
Okay.
I think the state.
We're above the state average,
Oh,
yes.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
I was just like wondering, like,
I want to say it's around 20, but I could be.
Okay.
yeah. And doing well in our North Shore area also, so. I'm gonna send a lot of information your way now. We're gonna go into AP assessments. So there are a variety of different AP placement tests that are conducted and taken over the course of the years at our high school. So you're going to see the various exams that are taken up on the screen by subjects and also by year. So it's important to note that AP scores are or AP tests are scored on a scale of 1 to 5, and generally 3 is a passing score. So when you're seeing those scores at the bottom, that's how those particular students scored across the building. So this one in particular is art. So you'll also get to see a really nice tour of all of the different electives and classes that we have from an AP standpoint. These are our math AP testament.
Suppose you can identify specific areas where we might need to work.
Mhm.
It looks like math might be the harder one.
Mm-hmm. Let me know if I'm going too fast. The next one is AP Computer Science. This is AP ELA, so 4 of the assessments that go along with our ELA. You're going to start to notice there are some places that have blank boxes. That might be that those particular classes did not run that year because they did not have enough students. So that's why some of them are blank. Here is AP Science. And AP Social Studies has 2 slides, lots of AP exams that fall under the Social Studies category. This is slide 2 for AP Social Studies. AP World Language. And finishing off with our AP Music exam that I believe started last year. Yes. So first year for AP Music Theory. So similarly to some of the conversations that we had last month, all of this is data that we need to be watching and helps us to inform our decisions of what we need to be working on. We have a variety of different teams that are fantastic within the district. So our district leadership committee, our building teams, our PLC teams, our classroom teams. This is information that is helpful for us to make some strong instructional decisions and see how things are transpiring over the years. We want to make sure that we're focusing on the actionable data, the things that we can control, and making sure that we are addressing areas that students might need a little bit more. We want to be watching that student growth, and then it's also important for us to make sure that we're taking note of where we are strong, where things are going really well. Mentioned this last month, but many of our building SLO goals support what kinds of areas of either need or growth take place at each of those buildings based off of their own individual building data. And one of the things that it was interesting to hear the music colleagues today, because coordinating our efforts vertically is something that is really important to make sure that we are supporting students all the way through the system and getting them prepared for that next level that they're going to have the next year. So making sure that we're having those conversations across our system is really helpful to have strong impact on our data, especially in high school.
I had 2 questions. First question, so well, I guess one point, thank you for sharing those ACT scores. I don't recall seeing those before at a board meeting, seeing all of them back to back like that, and that was really informative, and I think the overall trend looked really positive in most areas, so I appreciate seeing that. First question, what is an area of like need, strength, growth that like jumped out to either you or Dr. Clark after looking at this data? I know that high school ELA is something that's a focus with the pilot this year. Is there anything else that kind of jumped out at you?
I think sometimes different levels have their own areas of need. You know, we're going to talk a little bit later this afternoon or this evening about high school math. And so while many of our scores look really, really good and we are trending really positively, making sure that we're really watching our students that are in those target groups, regardless of those subjects, is something that is really important for us to take note on.
Okay. Yep. And then my second question was again about the forward exam. Do you have any sense if this year's test or this past year's test was less rigorous than in the past? I had read that from 2012 to 2023 that the forward exam was aligned with the National Assessment of Education, which is like national standards for some of these standardized tests nationwide, and that DPI made a decision to no longer use those standards for the forward exam, and because it was like too challenging. Do you have any sense if this most recent forward exam was less rigorous than in the past?
So some of the some of the areas of the forward exam did change last year. The writing portions, the amount that they had to write, which was on their long write, did change a little bit, but they infused writing across the test more frequently. So instead of having one longer passage that students needed to write and that was it, there were some smaller short response places that they also had to infuse in different spots. So there were some tweaks to the exam last year. I don't know if I could comfortably say if it was based off of, you know, being a principal and hearing teachers, they were pretty comparable to what they had seen previously, but there were a few tweaks to that, especially that writing area.
Okay, thank you.
I just noticed, I mean, I think it looks, thanks for all of this detail. It's just really helpful and, you know, overall, I feel, you know, the high school's doing a good job. I know we can always do better and always strive to do better. I just find it interesting too, the fluctuation in some of the classes on the number of students taking them, you know, how it can ebb and flow, which I'm sure you're watching that, but it's just kind of interesting. And with that, do you know, with these AP classes, like what percentage of students approximately do not take the test? Do you know? 10%, so most students will take, okay, yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thus ends the superintendent's report.
Yes, that concludes.
All right, so now we are to public comment. Nobody signed up, but is there anyone in the, anyone here who wants to make public comment tonight? One over here, okay. I'm going to read a public comment disclaimer before you begin. Any district staff member, district resident, parent of a district student, or student enrolled in the district may comment during the public comment portion of a meeting per board policy 0167.3. For this meeting, the community may address the board during public comment section of the meeting regarding topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. Individuals making public comments are reminded that they are not immune from legal consequences related to their speech. This includes, but is not limited to, liability for speech that is contrary to the privacy, reputational, or due process rights of others, such as defamation or making false claims. Please make your comments to the board and not to any individuals in the audience. As this is a public meeting, it is expected that everyone in attendance will conduct themselves in a respectful and courteous manner that models appropriate behavior for our students. Speech or conduct that is threatening or disruptive is prohibited. In accordance with School Board Policy 0167.3, comments by an individual speaker shall not exceed 3 minutes in duration. When you approach the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. Please state the topic upon which you will be commenting. And if you're under the age of 18 or are a student in the Cedarburg schools, please only state your first name. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the district's website.
All right, so Aaron Schmidt, 1680 Swallow Drive. This is about the Character Strong curriculum. So I just have some simple questions since it was recommended to be brought to the full board for review. And it's not at this meeting, so I'm hoping it will be at the next one. But these are not rhetorical questions, so if anybody wants to jump in, and specifically those members of the curriculum committee, that would be great. So first question should be a softball, since some of you voted against it. But in what way have you made the middle school better by removing Character Strong?
So I think these questions are going to have to be rhetorical this week, or during this meeting, because it's not on the agenda as a discussion item. I can tell you it will be on next month's agenda.
Okay, well then I have a few more questions just to put them out there then. Maybe you could think about it before next month. So when you halted second step, you said you would develop a homegrown curriculum. Where is it? Nobody in the district is working on it. That was years ago that was promised. When you halted second step, you claimed it was because it wasn't properly approved, even though you voted multiple times to approve funding for it, almost $40,000 to date. So who on the curriculum committee is to blame for funding an unapproved curriculum and then allowing it in the school for years? And now with Character Strong, you've once again claimed that it wasn't approved despite approving multiple budgetary expenditures totaling over $18,000 for it. So who's to blame for that? And then what are your consequences for your negligence for allowing unapproved curriculum in the schools for years, for spending almost $60,000 on now nothing of taxpayer money? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have next recommendations. Dr. Clark.
All right, this evening we have 3 recommendations. The first recommendation is seeking approval for the 2025-26 school year district calendar. On the proposed calendar, the first day of school for students would be Tuesday, September 2nd, with the last day of school for students being Wednesday, June 10th. The biggest change to this calendar from previous calendars is the elimination of the 4 early release days and the inclusion of an additional professional development day. This change was a recommendation from the calendar committee that consists of school district teachers and staff and is led by Mr. DeRosa. Mr. DeRosa is available to answer any questions.
Hearing none. Do you need a, yeah, it would take a motion to approve the 25-26 school district calendar.
So
I would
moved.
make,
Second
Got a
it.
motion?
I would make a motion to approve the calendar, but with the modification of removing April 3rd, Good Friday.
So, Mr. DeRosa, you had a calendar committee put this together, and you've got the recommendation from, can you maybe explain the process in like 30 seconds so we understand why Good Friday's on there?
Sure. When we make the calendar, obviously we try to stay in connection with all the other school districts in southeastern Wisconsin. You'll notice in this calendar that our spring break is later in this calendar year. Usually it's the 3rd week in March, and so when Easter is earlier, it pushes the spring break later. And perhaps it stands out in this instance, because it's attached to the break where other times it's not, and it's a day off.
My request would just be to remove
The language
the
on the right side.
language, April 3rd, Good Friday, because it's unnecessary.
To remove what?
To remove where it states April 3rd, Good Friday, and just leave it as no school spring break, April 1st through the 3rd, and just removing that second line of April 3rd, Good Friday.
Any rationale?
It's unnecessary, and we're a public school district, not parochial.
I don't understand.
Good Friday is religious terminology, and
Okay.
nothing else on the calendar
Oh.
is, so that
Do we
would be
have-
my recommendation.
So then, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone second that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it. That's fine.
Okay, the motion and a second, any discussion?
I don't mind it being removed. There's several holidays that our students celebrate, don't celebrate. I can't say it stuck out to me, otherwise I wouldn't have been so quick to move it. But I hear where Board Member Erickson is coming from, and I'm fine with that rationale.
All right, anyone else?
I appreciate the work, Tony, that you put into this along with the calendar committee, and I don't think I'd be in favor of that motion. I think it's sufficient and good as is.
Anything else? All right.
Tony, was there any discussion of that at the calendar committee?
It actually was something that did not come up. We were very focused on the early release days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to know what days are, it's not, I mean, that's what it's called. It's called Good Friday, like Thanksgiving is called Thanksgiving. So, I have no problem with having it. I think it's helpful for people to see that if they're looking for it, rather than not have it. Okay, motion and a second. More comments, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That motion fails 5-2. We go back to Ms. Kincaid's original motion for approval of the calendar, and we're looking for a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I appreciate Board Member Erickson bringing her perspective on this. Thanksgiving was mentioned. I think we're going to go back and forth as a community on some of these dates, and specifically for this calendar, that Good Friday being right in spring break, I think it's fine to just not have it. So my request would be in the future, when you guys do have those calendar committee meetings, am I saying that right? Is that right, Jared? Mm-hmm. That maybe it does become a talking point of conversation. I fully understand that discussion on the PD days was really a focus this time around for both community and staff. So yeah, just a request to kind of look at that and get some feedback as well from members of the staff. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the motion to approve. Did we get a second?
Yeah.
We did. Okay, is there further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Next.
All right, the second recommendation is seeking approval for the elimination of the CHS geometry course. This recommendation has been forwarded by the curriculum committee. The elimination of the geometry course is in alignment with the elimination of Algebra 1 course last school year. Ms. Rudich is available to answer any questions.
I guess the question I think people will have is, eliminating geometry, what do you mean?
We are not eliminating geometry. There are currently 3 levels of geometry at the high school. So this would have narrowed down to having 2 levels of geometry, which would be accelerated geometry and honors geometry. This also is the extension of what we did last year in algebra. So it's just continuing that path for students.
And one of the drivers for that is when the high school team looked at data 2 years ago, noticed that our students that were on in the target group, which is the bottom 25% of our students, that they were the ones that weren't growing as much. And then digging into it, realized they need a more of a robust learning experience in math. And so that included Algebra 1 and geometry.
To get us through the committee, the curriculum committee recommended forwarding for approval. So we'd entertain a motion.
I guess I'd like to add, when we did this for the algebra curriculum, you felt it was a positive addition, so.
Yeah, and we did take a look at some of the data at the curriculum committee, and at this point, students are doing just as well as they had grade-wise when we had 3 levels of algebra, if not better.
So I will make a motion to approve the, it sounds funny, elimination of the high school geometry course.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, the last recommendation this evening is for the acceptance of donations to the district. This month there was 1 donation, $2,500 from the Fine Arts Boosters. The donation will be used to support the Cedarburg High School Fine Arts Department, with $500 going to each of the following programs: art, tech theater, drama, vocal music, and instrumental music. The board approves these donations. That will be a total donation in December of $2,500, and for the school year, it will be $169,538.25.
I would make a motion to approve the donations.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and again, to our generous community, thank you for the continued donations. 7, okay, the last item here we got is the committee reports. Curriculum Committee, Elizabeth Charlin.
Yeah, we met on December 4th, talked first about German 1 and German 2 pilot proposal to update the textbooks there to the newest editions from a publisher called Wayside Publisher. The plan is to pilot at German 1 this year and then German 2 next year, so we expect to get an update on how that went further along in the curriculum committee. And next we discussed the high school geometry course, which we just approved now. So this is really similar to what was done with the algebra courses and going down from 3 to 2, as Allie described. And I think what really helped make this an easy decision was to hear how well that transition had gone for algebra, and that we can feel confident this is a good move for geometry as well, to make sure that the appropriate standards at the appropriate rigor are available in that geometry course. Next, we got an update on the Act 20, which is a literacy statewide bill that was passed, so the development of a district early literacy plan. So we discussed a draft plan. Allie was sure to note that a lot of the pieces required for that plan were things that the district had already been doing, which was just excellent to hear. Our district has excellent literacy coaches, so I wasn't too surprised to hear that. They are preparing for doing the Ames Web Plus screener next month, which is going to be a new screener that's required by the bill, and then seeing if at-risk students will need an individual reading plan. So more to come on that. And then last we discussed the Webster pause time, homeroom character strong, discussed feedback on individual lessons. Dan Reinert was there, so that was great to hear his specific feedback on how the lessons are taught at Webster. He wasn't able to make it to the last time that was discussed at Curriculum Committee. We discussed a lesson alignment and how the individual lessons aligned with ROAR, which is the PBIS kind of student behavior matrix, and we did make a motion 2-to-1. I was a dissenting vote on that to continue the lessons for the school year and then reassess for next year. And as Dave said, I'm anticipating that making it to the full board agenda next month. And our next meeting is Thursday, January 9th.
All right, thank you. Building and Grounds Committee, Kate Netzel.
So we held a Building and Grounds Committee meeting on December 11th, and we discussed the natural gas winter usage pricing update. Locked it in at $3.28 a decatherm, which is actually down from last year at $3.57. We had some discussion about electrical usage monitoring. The district has put in place a monitoring system which will let us look at data to drive decisions and how we use our levels of energy usage around the district. Can also take a look at how we're using it and then make adjustments accordingly to save money is the plan. So that was interesting to learn more about. We also had a district roof update. It's been over 4 years since we've had an update on all of the roofs. So we had specific information on where those first fixes need to come next. And then also the CHS air handling unit update. Right now only 2 of 4 compressors are running, and that we discussed that needs to be one of the first fixes coming up here in about a year and a half. And last on the agenda was the long-term capital improvement plan and budget, which is a little too lengthy to go into detail here, but basically the previous discussions of the roofs and the air handling unit kind of drive that whole discussion, and adjustments are made to that plan as we move through all those discussions. We have a future meeting date of March 18th, 2025.
Thank you. All right, now we're to, okay, we got all the committees, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to bring up the motion that was made in the curriculum committee meeting to move Character Strong to the next board meeting. I am hoping that it is on next month's agenda and that it gets a vote so that we're not leaving our teachers and staff and administrators in any more limbo as to wondering what is going on. There's been over 2.5 months' time to look at the lessons, and I think we're setting a dangerous standard of not moving committee recommendations to the board at the next meeting. The first time was with the negotiations committee, and now we have it again with the curriculum committee, so hopefully this is something that does not become a habit.
Anyone have any comments on the motion to adjourn?
Not on the motion to adjourn, but I
Okay,
just wanted
well-
to share for the B and G, since we're still in discussion. I really appreciated that meeting, and I recognize, Kate, that you can't share, all the details insofar as that last agenda item. It was lengthy, but there were some really creative money-saving methods going on, and that meeting, there's no record of it as far as the district's concerned. There's, the individuals who are sitting at that table who were able to receive that information. So once again, I'll just share that I think there's value in the district streaming our committee meetings so that there is a available record for constituents and anyone to hear. Thank you very much.
All right, so any comment on the actual motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you.